Hi, it's Slade. I'm back. I know it's been a while. I think my last video was February. So yeah, I've left it quite a while. Basically the reason for that is just that my current situation means that I don't really have as much time to be putting into YouTube, and also the money for video editing software, again, not really something that I am, I'm not rolling in it, so as to speak. But I'm, trying to reevaluate, find some ways around it. So the quality of my videos at the moment might be a little lower. That's just kind of how it's going to be. I mean, not that the quality was amazing before anyway, but it might be a little lower, but hopefully it'll still be, good. Me talking, I mean, good, who knows. Okay, so I just wanted to make this video because obviously, you might have noticed, there's been a Mario movie trailer. We've been waiting for this for, well, basically since we found out that there was going to be an animated movie based on Mario. This is a big deal. It is the first time we're going to, well, obviously we've already heard it now. I've already heard it. This is my thoughts after the fact. But it's the first time we're hearing Chris Pratt as Mario, as well as, Jack Black as Bowser and several other characters as well. And I just wanted to kind of wanted to put my thoughts out there, because there's a lot of things that I've heard that people aren't necessarily discussing. I think perspectives and angles that I am kind of seeing it from that I'm not seeing a lot of other people go with. So just kind of wanted to throw it out there, see what people think of what I'm thinking here and the perspectives that I'm looking at. So let's get straight into it, really. So the first thing that I wanted to note about this, and this is something that I'm sure everyone is thinking, but it looks really good. As in, like, the visual design looks really good, especially that mushroom section. The mushrooms themselves, and not just the visual design, the sound design as well. It all looks and sounds really good. When Mario just kind of lands on that mushroom and slides off, just the sound of him, the squeaking sound of him just falling off of that, it really makes it feel a lot more tangible, I guess. But yeah, a lot of people have said, how on earth is this an Illumination movie? And I mean, I haven't seen a massive amount of Illumination movies. I've seen Despicable Me, Sing, and then like The Secret Life of Pets in the background once. But yeah, it's always very clear that their movies don't have the most effort pumped into making them look as pretty as something like Pixar, but this movie seems to be the exception to the rule, and that's great. This looks like a version of the Mushroom Kingdom like we've never seen. It looks so much more vibrant and so much more detailed, which is weird because we have had versions of the Mushroom Kingdom that feel vibrant and detailed, especially I would say Mario Odyssey. But this feels like it takes it a step beyond, which I wasn't necessarily expecting. And that kind of goes for the designs of the characters as well. I wasn't expecting us to get different designs for the characters. Maybe that was naive, but I just expected it to be very standard designs. Mario would look just like he does in the games. Maybe, with a little bit more detail on the stitching of the clothing. But no, we've got not massively different designs. I still think that it looks very much like Mario. The way that I've put it is that technically this looks more like Mario than, for example, Paper Mario, who, overall, you can tell it's Mario. It's visually designed as Mario, but because of the nature of it, the proportions was all very different. Whereas with the movie Mario, he's actually proportioned quite similarly. There's a few differences. I noticed that the hands are a lot smaller in this version, but those are things that you can kind of overlook. The face as well, there's something a little bit different there, but it's hard to really tell what. I think it might be something to do with the eyes, someone said. And one of the things that is a bit more obvious, even though I didn't actually notice it until it was pointed out to me, was that Mario has a collar. And that doesn't sound like that big a deal, but it really does kind of add something to the design, I think. And just the detail on the clothing in general it almost feels hyper realistic, but in a way that doesn't take away from the cartoony nature of Mario. And so yeah, overall I think that this is a very loyal version of Mario visually. It looks like Mario. And that's great. And I actually would extend that to most of the characters. The Toads especially, you know, they look like they've been taken straight from the game. Apart from maybe their whatever, the shorts, trousers, pants, I don't know, whatever they are. They look a bit baggier, I think, maybe? But other than that, they look very similar. And Bowser has a different design, but still one that looks very much like Bowser. The only thing I'd say about Bowser's design is I feel like the eyes feel a little bit bulgy. I'm not sure why that is, or maybe I'm just seeing things, I don't know. Something about his face does feel off, but you could say that about Mario as well. So the design is good. The designs of all the characters, you know, even Kamek and Luigi, they all seem really good. My only kind of reservation is with the Koopas, and not even because I have any reservations. It's not even that I have any, you know, massive reservations about the Koopa design. It's more about the fact that it's the helmets. The helmets make me think of the Hammer Brothers. That shouldn't really be a big deal breaker, but I feel like if you're going to have a design for the Koopas, why would you use an element that is commonly seen on Hammer Brothers? I'm fairly sure that design has been used for Koopas in other media. It might have been the Super Mario Bros. Super Show, although I might be mistaken. And you know, it makes sense for soldiers to be wearing a helmet. You know, that's not my issue here. It's just that, I don't know, it just kind of feels like it blends Hammer Brothers and Koopas together, and you know, I quite like the Hammer Brothers. They feel unique, so I don't know. It's not a big deal breaker. I'll get used to it. And you know, you can see some pretty cool design elements in the Koopas anyway. There's one Koopa that's got a blue shell for a shell, which I mean, that's awesome. And you know, there was a Koopa with an eye patch. I mean, I assume that's not an important character because there's already quite a lot of characters that we know are in the film. But it could be a specific Koopa, or it could just be something they've done because it looks cool for a one-off shot or something like that. So yeah, overall character designs I think are really solid. So then you've got elements like, for example, the story, which we can't really tell much. We can tell that Bowser is collecting the Power Star, or whether it's a Power Star or an Invincibility Star, the Starman. I'm not entirely sure. It looks like the Starman. Because the Power Stars tend to have slightly more rounded points, whereas the Starman has very sharp points. That could just be a visual thing. They might be kind of merging the two concepts together. You know, there's no reason to be super loyal to the Mario games and how those games work. but it was just something that I noticed, that it doesn't necessarily look like a Power Star. It looks like the Starman, but it could still be a Power Star. The way that he's talking about it seems more like a Power Star, but could still fit for the Starman. So it could just be a combination of the both. It could genuinely be just that. It could be both. One of the things that I have seen people potentially grumbling a little bit about is the fact that it's Mario being brought from a place to the Mushroom Kingdom where he doesn't know about the Mushroom Kingdom. So, kind of like being brought from one world to another. I don't mind that. It's, I mean, I know people have said it's tropey. It's fine. It's just a kind of a story thing. We know that the backstory of Mario is that, you know, from some in some way, from some perspective, he was not from the Mushroom Kingdom, and he went to the Mushroom Kingdom. You know, I have seen some speculation that he could be from New Donk City, and he's been transported from New Donk City to the Mushroom Kingdom, which is a completely alien world to him. Which would make sense, considering we know that Cranky Kong and Donkey Kong and Foreman Spike are here. So that kind of seems to be the angle they're taking. That's fine. I don't have any objection to any of that. That, you know, it's what it is. I think you can make a good story out of that, and I think that there's potential for them to do that here. The humour in this seems to be, you know, alright. It doesn't seem to be low-hanging fruit so far. I quite like the section with the penguins. I don't think it was the most hilarious thing ever. It's quite an obvious joke, I guess, but you know, it's not. You know, it's not. We haven't got fart jokes yet, so that's good. But I did quite like the section with Toad, you know, saying don't touch that, you'll die, and then oh no wait, that's fine. That was quite good. I like that. Obviously there's not much humour here so far, but you know, it's kind of one of the worries with a modern animated film, how the humour is going to be handled. So the fact that it seems to be okay so far, we can't really tell at this point, but I'm keeping mildly optimistic about that. Okay, so I kind of wanted to talk about the characters that we have and their characterization. The first is the Penguin King, because obviously this is an original character, but it's not obviously an original species. We've seen these penguins before in many Mario games, you know, starting with Mario 64, I believe, but you know, it's been in other games such as the Galaxy games, and even Odyssey, although they were handled a little differently in Odyssey. But yeah, I really like the idea of using a species that isn't necessarily that. It's not exactly one of the foremost species. You know, when people are discussing, you know, species that they like NPC species that they would like to see as Mario Kart characters, for example. That people might say the Piantas. They might say one of the newer ones, like a new Donker, or a Tostarinen. Is that how you say it? Yeah, that's how you say it. So they might say things like that. There are people who will say, "Oh, I think we should have a penguin for Mario Kart." Not as much though, because even though they're quite a well-loved species in the Mario universe, they're also kind of overlooked. So the fact that they've actually taken the time to, you know, focus on this, even if it's just a one-off cameo scene, I think is just really cool, and I really like that. And the Penguin King is just, he seems like a great character. I hope that he comes back in some form later in the film, because, I mean, I just think he's a great character. Just the do you yield? It's just, it's just the confidence from that penguin. You know, you live in an ice palace and you're up against a fire-breathing turtle. I mean, that's you got some guts there. But yeah, so I would say now that the King Penguin is my most wanted Mario Kart character. And I think that it's... I quite like the character. I don't know, I just really like the character. So in terms of the established characters that we have, we start off with Kamek. And Kamek's voice kind of took me off at first. I wasn't quite sure about it, but the more you think about it, you know, Kamek is meant to be a wizard, you know? So this kind of old wizened voice, it works. It works. It feels like something that Kamek could sound like. I mean, overall, Kamek is typically a lot more cackly than that. But you don't need to be necessarily super loyal with a character like that. Especially, I mean, it's Kamek. Kamek hasn't got a massively defined character outside of the Yoshi Island games. I mean, I haven't played much of the Yoshi Island games, if I'm honest. But typically, Kamek can be, you know, interchanged with any Magic Koopa a lot of the time. So it's just kind of nice to have some focus on Kamek and have, you know, something a little bit more unique to Kamek now. The next voice that we hear, apart from... Oh no, actually no, before the Penguin King. But the next voice we hear is Bowser. I know that a lot of people are very just on board with this Bowser performance. And overall, I would say I am, but I'm not entirely on board. Just some of the delivery just feels, I don't know, it doesn't feel quite right to me. I will say my favourite line in the whole thing is a Bowser line. Which is where the Penguin King asks, "Do you yield?" And he says, "I do not." And just that delivery, that alone would have sold me on Jack Black as Bowser, because something about it just felt, I don't know, it just felt right. But it's especially the last line of "Who's gonna stop me?" It felt a bit over the top. Or not even over the top, because Bowser has to be a bit over the top. It just didn't feel a very natural way to deliver that line. And I get that Jack Black is going to be having a lot of fun with this character, and you need to have a lot of fun with this character. I'm just not entirely convinced by what I've heard. But at the same time, I'd say that I'm like 70% convinced. It's still a really good performance. I just feel like I haven't heard quite what I needed to hear to be fully on board. So that's kind of where I am with Bowser. At least the voice. In terms of his actual characterization, the fact that he just blasts that Ice Kingdom completely, that is great. I love that. That making Bowser actually feel like a threat. I mean, the games do it, especially games like, I mean, Odyssey does it, but especially Galaxy makes Bowser feel like a genuine threat. Like, you know, what a universe-ending threat. And the thing is, Bowser is often a very comedic character, and that's one of the lovable things about him. But sometimes when they lean too hard into that, they manage to take away his teeth, so to speak. They just make him feel a little bit, you know, just a little bit of a doofus, to be completely honest. And it makes him feel less threatening as a result. But here they are establishing right from the off, no, Bowser is a threat. He is the kind of guy that can just literally breathe, he could just breathe a stream of fire and destroy your entire kingdom. That's great. And the only issue I have is that it feels like this could be potentially setting him up to not be the main villain, which, I mean, it might not be. He may end up being the big bad behind it all, and that would be great, because I think that that is something that they sometimes don't do with Bowser. They relegate him to the threat, not like the true threat. You've got things like Super Paper Mario. Spoilers for Super Paper Mario. It's been 15 years. You should have played it by now. But the fact that Bowser in the beginning of the game, it's like, oh yeah, you're going to be fighting Bowser. But very quickly, it's like, oh no, it's actually going to be Count Bleck. And then obviously after that, Dimentio. And this is something I believe. I don't play many of the RPGs. I believe they do it a lot in the RPGs, where he's not the main threat and he's more just kind of a small side obstacle, sometimes just for the beginning of the game, and then after that he becomes an ally or just a minor inconvenience, and the true threat reveals themselves. To be fair, in the main series they do a good job at keeping him as the main threat. But my worry would be that they won't do that for this movie. Not that it would be the worst thing in the world, because Bowser is the lovable goof, so if it ended up with him siding with the heroes, that wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. But I would kind of like at least one movie where Bowser is the big bad main threat. I just think that would do him justice. I do kind of have a theory that I think this is just kind of based on basically nothing at this point, but we know that Charles Martinet is going to be voicing a character, potentially a cameo character. I kind of have a theory that he could actually be voicing Wario, and one of the reasons is because we have heard Charles Martinet voicing Wario in full sentences actually really recently. We don't see that very much with Mario, or Luigi, so it would kind of be weird to have those doing that in the film proper. But I think it would actually be quite fitting for Martinet to take on the role of Wario, just fully. Wario is voiced by Charles Martinet for this film, and I could see them doing some plot twist where actually Wario is the main villain, and Bowser is again just not. Wario is not necessarily the masterminding Bowser, but he kind of, I don't know, maybe he does something which means that Bowser isn't the main threat. That's just kind of my theory on where this could go. I think that if we get a sequel, Wario will be the main villain. I couldn't see it being War or Tatanga. And we've got Donkey Kong in this film, so I can't see it being Donkey Kong either. So I think that if we get a sequel, we don't know that we're gonna. If we get a sequel, I think it would be Wario, unless he's in this one. But yeah, that was just a little theory. I hope the Bowser is the main villain. That is kind of my overall hope, but I don't know if they're going to stick with that the entire way. Okay, so on to the next character, which is Toad. I'm fully sold on Toad. The Toad voice is perfect. Yeah, I genuinely. It has all of the delivery and just the general voice. It's the right. They've pitched it up, obviously, and it sounds just perfect. The humor, the delivery. I have no complaints about Toad. Toad is my standout from this trailer. I can't wait to see, the rest of what Toad's performance is going to be. And yeah, I'm quite looking forward to this character. And then we get to Mario. See, here's the thing. A lot of people have talked about how, obviously we don't have Charles Martinet playing Mario. And Mario doesn't have an Italian accent. And a lot of people have commented on the fact that this sounds like Chris Pratt. It's essentially like Chris Pratt playing Chris Pratt. And the issue I have with that is that I don't agree at all. I don't think Chris Pratt is playing Chris Pratt. And obviously it sounds like Chris Pratt. You can't change Chris Pratt's voice. You know, he's got a very recognisable voice. But I think that he's actually really doing a good job at playing Mario. And I'll explain what I mean by that, because the second line that he speaks, we only get 2 lines. One of them is, "What is this place?" You can't really tell much from that. But the second one is, "Mushroom Kingdom, here we come." And anyone watching this video, I just want you to go back and listen to that line. Listen to it a few times if you need to. Mushroom Kingdom, here we come. I'm not going to try and impersonate Chris Pratt's performance here, because I literally can't. But just listen to the way that he says it, and then come back to this. You back? Okay, cool. So, try and think about the way that he delivers that line. And try to imagine any other Chris Pratt character doing that. And you can, you know, substitute in Mushroom Kingdom in for any place. So, Jurassic World, here we come. Or, you know, Cloud Cuckoo Land, here we come. Or Titan, here we come. Try and imagine, you know, Star-Lord or Emmett or Owen Grady saying, you know, a line like that in that exact way. Just try and imagine that. It doesn't fit. It just doesn't fit with any of those characters. Even Emmett, who is a very similar character to Mario, it just doesn't quite feel right. And the reason for that is because Chris Pratt isn't playing Chris Pratt. And Chris Pratt isn't playing a character that he often plays. He's playing Mario. Like, this is a Mario that has all of the energy, the high energy, the bouncy, joyful energy that Mario needs. I think that Chris Pratt is actually doing a really good job. And I'm quite confused when people say that Chris Pratt is just playing Chris Pratt. Chris Pratt sounds like Chris Pratt. Don't get me wrong. It's Chris Pratt's voice. But it's not Chris Pratt's performance. It's a performance of Mario. So I think that actually Chris Pratt is doing really well with this. Obviously, this is one line that I'm basing this on. The other line is, it's hard to tell anything from it. But that one line is all I'm basing this on at the moment. It's just that I think it's actually a really good sign that we are going to get a Mario that just conforms to all of the things that Mario needs to conform to. So yeah, I think that I would say that I am probably about 85% sold on Chris Pratt at the moment. As Mario. I'm actually thinking that this is going to be a really good performance. It's not going to be, you know, dry or sarcastic like a lot of his characters. No, he's not going to be the straight man. He is just going to be Mario. So yeah, Mario is great. And the last character that we see is Luigi. We don't really hear much from him. We don't really see much from him. That scene really did feel tacked on to the end just for Luigi fans, because, let's be honest, we know that Luigi is one of the biggest fan favourite characters in the Mario series, so, you know, people will be wanting to see him, so they just kind of tacked that onto the end just to kind of get the fans going a bit, which is fine. There's not a lot of value outside of that. I think that what they do with the dry bones is really cool, and it does kind of prompt the question of why Luigi is in this kind of haunted mansion place. It's probably something like Mario and Luigi found a warp pipe, and it kind of took them to different places. You know, it took Mario to the Mushroom Kingdom, and it took, you know, Luigi to another area a bit further away that is, you know, haunted. Something like that. I mean, that's obviously what's happened, I think. But But yeah, so there's not really much to say about this part or about Luigi in general in this film. We just don't know much about it from what we're shown. But you know, it's nice to see another character, nice to see another, you know, character render. Yeah, that's all I really have to say about Luigi. I'm not like as big a Luigi fan as a lot of people. So you know, I wasn't exactly going crazy over seeing that. But it's what it is. It's good to see him. And that's basically my thoughts on the trailer as we have seen it. Overall, I would say I'm cautiously optimistic. Yeah, I would say I am cautiously optimistic. I think again with film, just films in general, not just Illumination films, but just films in general. You can never really tell what a film is going to be like from the trailer. So, you know, when people are saying, oh, the Mario movie looks like it's going to be good, it could be good. Like, we don't know that it's going to be good. They're putting their best foot forward. Film trailers often do. But, you know, there is cause to be cautiously optimistic, I think. So, that's great. I just kind of wanted to mention a few things that have been kind of on my mind about this film. So I already talked about my theory that Wario might be in the film and will be played by Charles Martinet and could even be the main villain. One character I don't think is going to be in the film, at least not in a significant capacity, is Yoshi. There is a Yoshi egg in the poster, but what I think that could be, it could end up being something where they buy a Yoshi egg or something, or they are given the Yoshi egg, and in maybe a post-credit scene it hatches into Yoshi. That I think is the most we'll see of Yoshi. But I've already kind of got my ideal casting for this, and I posted this on Twitter and Reddit over the weekend, or not over the weekend, last week. But I think that Alan Tudyk would be the perfect casting for Yoshi. He has done characters recently that don't talk. He played Hey Hey the Chicken in Moana. He played Tuk Tuk the armadillo thing in Raya and the Last Dragon. And he played Pico the Toucan in Encanto. It seems to be a thing. It seems to be something that he's doing a fair bit. And you know, all of those films are Disney films, so you know, it might just be something that he's doing with Disney. But I think it does show that Alan Tudyk can do a character who does not speak really well, and I think that he would be great for Yoshi. But also, the other reason is because of the fact that, you know, one of his most iconic scenes, at least as far as I'm aware, one of his most iconic scenes as an actor is the dinosaur scene from Firefly. You know, the curse your sudden but inevitable betrayal scene. And I just think it would never happen, or it would never happen. But just the idea that maybe Yoshi betrays Mario and sides with Bowser because he's, you know, maybe he's young and he doesn't understand. And then they just kind of do a beat for beat recreation of that scene from Firefly. I don't know, something about that tickles me. It will never happen, but I just, you know, I just love imagining if it did happen. But even taking that out, Alan Tudyk I think would be a great Yoshi. I don't think Yoshi will be in this film though. Some people have been speculating about whether Pauline will be in the film. It's possible. If she is, I think she'll be a fairly minor part. And I don't think that she'll necessarily be played by, you know, a big name actress. I don't know. I feel like that would have been announced by now, because there's no real reason not to include Pauline, you know, in the general, you know, marketing. I don't know if she was a bigger part. So yeah. So the Yoshi idea, I think, is one of my ideas for a post-credit scene. There is another I have, and that could be that the post-credit scene is actually Kamek bringing Bowser back to life as Dry Bowser. I think that would be a decent way to set up the next film. Could have a Bowser Jr. cameo. He'd probably be Tom Holland. Yeah. So yeah, those are kind of my general thoughts on the film. Quite looking forward to it. You know, it's going to be interesting to see what it's like. And yeah, so that's basically all I have to say at this point. Yeah, I would say watch the video, but you already have. How do I end videos? Goodbye? Farewell? Sayonara? I'm rambling. I'm just gonna stop now. I'm just gonna stop the recording.